Kristina.
Thank you, MC Jess. Thank you guys, everyone, for coming today, and I guess taking your time from your family and friends to be here tonight. And I guess my main aim from this presentation is to be as useful as possible, and everything that I really want to share today is gathered from real experience, from implementing actual solutions for the customers. And to kick off, probably what I want to talk about is probably initial question and I thought that I ask and think about when I talk with a customer is actually understanding what is this business doing is first of all, what is the industry, what is the customer, is it B2C, B2B? And another probably thought in terms of kind of volume, how much people they're actually looking to target and how many new leads will be coming into Salesforce, because that will be kind of dictating the whole automation we'll be building inside the system. So let's say, for example, we have a customer that is receiving 10 leads a day. So we want to make sure, for example, we'll set up an automation that will maybe notify and, I don't know, direct straight away that new lead to go to the right person. Or let's say customer has 100 leads a day. Then I guess the aim of this presentation is to kind of show you and guide you through a potential solutions, how we actually can optimize scoring and grading model to make sure it actually helps the sales team and everybody else in the business to kind of see and then identify which are these actually hot prospects that make the most for the business, so the right people can straight away kind of crack on them and make the most. And to kind of step back from going into the solution, I wanted to kind of just to walk you through that kind of ideal potential flow where actually we start and where the lead starts. So the lead can come obviously from directly by knowing and Googling your website. Lead can come through organic search on Google. Lead can come from the ad, from Facebook or other sources. And when the lead comes, it becomes a website visitor. Then, of course, we all here as automation professionals, we do a great job and we know the ways how to convert that visitor to a prospect. Now we have this person's first name, last name, email, and potentially a couple other valuable information for us as the business to know what we can target with them further. Afterwards, the magic happens. We have set up beautiful scoring and grading models, and Pardot is actually able to apply the right scoring and grading based on how valuable the lead is for us as a business. Then we have a beautiful connector working and we ship the lead to Salesforce. And when we ship the lead to Salesforce, I guess we have a professionals and the lead goes through MQL process, and based on that, the internal people can actually see and assign either that people to a specific salesperson or further to a queue based on the region or other model that business can have based on their scale. And let's imagine we have been really successful and that lead is converting to contact, account, and opportunity. And here we can kind of see that the first 3 points are happening in Pardot, our marketing automation tool, and the rest of the magic is happening in Salesforce. And first question of the evening, which do you think icon represents a kind of key action that really helps to get lead converted to a contact, account, and opportunity and win the business? What do you think? Louder? I heard the right answer.
Scoring and grading.
Yay! The topic of the event. Because based on, I guess, how great we initially implement and solutionize the design for scoring and grading, that will affect, obviously, lead will go to Salesforce, but that will affect the decision of the further people, how they actually work with that prospect and how they convert based on the all information that we have gathered there. And further, as I promised, kind of in my demo today, I want to take you through kind of the real use case and see how potentially we can use Pardot functionality to help you as a Pardot admin and help your internal sales team and other professionals to actually deal with these prospects. So here I have the example. Kristina is looking to buy a new house. She's 100% sure that the Chiswick is the right area for her. She has found a property agency website that sells all available houses in Chiswick. She submits her interest via property agency website form. So now they have her details on the site. And she also continues browsing the website, visiting many pages that are tracked by Pardot campaign tracking code. She has found and identified 3 houses that she really likes. And she also has submitted her interest to view these properties via the website. So now, I guess we can kick off and move into kind of solutionizing what would be those approaches, what we can do in terms of lead scoring, and what would be kind of my tips, how we can utilize Pardot platform to help business to win these clients. So first tip of the day is set up separate lead scoring models. So property agency offers 2 types of properties, flats and houses. And my assumption is that flats are less expensive than houses. And what they can do, they can set up 2 scoring categories for each property type, for flats and for houses. This will allow you to further define the scoring assigned to each prospect based on their interest. So for example, the same action based on the category, flat or house, prospect will receive lower or higher score. So the second tip from my side would be to establish a lead scoring threshold. So what I mean by that, let's say Kristina has been really active on the website. She has been visiting a lot of different pages and researching. So you can use Pardot page action to add additional score based on the property page visit. So let's say on the website, you have some key pages, for example, specific, you have a property section and then you have all available properties. And for each of these pages, based on the URL, you can set a page action to add a specific score to that prospect. Second, by default, we're tracking the last activity date. And to kind of summarize the page action and last activity, we can set up an automation rule to alert the sales team once prospect has reached a specific score, so for example 200, and has been active in the last 24 hours to kind of kick maybe the sales team to make sure they can pick up their phone and kind of ring the customer, and not saying that we actually were tracking you and we know that you're researching our website, but just kind of see, oh, I have seen you submitted your interest, do you want to know more information and things like that. The third tip of the day would be to customize your model based on the high value actions. So in one of the slides I had, we can set up page action to add even higher, basically page actions to add for each property page. But also we can divide these property pages into 2 in a way that we have page actions that refer flats and page action that refers houses. So those we can potentially rate separately and houses would be rated more higher. Second thing that we can do is we can use form handler completion action to uplift score for every property inquiry valued over 1 million. So for example, you have these couple key properties that are very highly valued and maybe you don't get so much inquiries. So for example, if and when you receive an inquiry for that specific property, you can uplift that prospect score to make sure he's kind of higher and salespeople notice him more. And then again, we can use the beautiful automation rules to set up the alert and notify the salespeople about interest submitted in the highly valued property. And the last tip in terms of the scoring is we kind of, in the previous 3 slides, we tried to uplift and kind of uplift the lead's score, and I guess it comes to a time, for example, when lead hasn't been active in the last 6 months, and we know based on the lead CRM status that they're still lead, they haven't converted as a contact. We can set up, first of all, a rule that actually scratches their score. So for example, these leads that haven't been active for the 6 months, so for the business for you, they're kind of already became dead leads. So for the sales team, not to kind of see them all the time on the top, you can put them down and upload the other ones that make more sense. They're hot and have been active in the last 24 hours. And then the second thing, we can create an automation rule or preferably an engagement studio program that will actually, after these 6 months, will follow up with that prospect and kind of ask an engaging question. Have there been a reason you haven't been active? Maybe you have found a house, or maybe you want to still kind of stay in the loop, and we'll be marketing to you some, I don't know, additionally maybe new properties that are coming to the market. So kind of by using the data that you have in Pardot, you can still continue communicating with your customer at the right time. So that's all about the scoring tips. And now we're ready to move to lead grading. And to start with grading, I guess where to actually start and what it is. I guess for me, that's always actually starting with me understanding how I can suggest my customer to categorize their customers. And first thing that we need to understand is the prospects are graded based on their profile. So it's kind of speaking with the business and understanding what potentially can be those profiles. So let's take as a simple example, low value customer, medium value customer, and high value customer, if we talk with the properties based on what type of property they're acquiring for. So just kind of identifying those layers, how we can actually separate the prospect. And then the second, I guess, when we have actually understood these different types of customers that business have, we need to use profiles. Profiles basically use a criteria that we choose to determine how good fit of a prospect they are for your company. Because basically, the higher the grade, the more valuable is the customer. And that's why we need to understand what will be those criteria. And once criteria trigger and matches, they're better graded for the business. So when we have kind of went through that internal process in ourselves as a consultants and understood, the second thing is actually working together with a customer marketing team or their decisions makers, and actually understanding how we can maybe suggest them to start kind of profiling their customers and talking with them. And I really like in Pardot, there is one kind of great grading worksheet that you can use. But I kind of, for example, I like to use my simple spreadsheet. And what I usually start with is actually sitting down with a customer and putting down these profiles here together. And then based on these profiles, I guess we're identifying which are these key fields that will be always populated that we can actually use to differentiate and play around with the customer's grade. So for example, in this scenario, they're on the right, is it the right or a left side? Right. Left side. Left side. We can see kind of profile names that the customer had. Basically, this was a property customer, and then they had cash, mortgage type of customers. And the first field that we used for criteria was customer category. So either they were buying with cash or their other property-based terminology. And then based on that, we're adjusting the score. The second field that we used was mortgage required or not. So obviously, if mortgage is required, we are not doing anything with the grade. If mortgage wasn't required, they had a full cash on. So for us, that means they're a good customer. The opportunity will go quickly. They have money, so we are raising the score. And then the third thing that they were doing as a company, they were visiting different events and trade shows. And if they had a chance to speak with the customer directly on the booth, give them their flyers, start building kind of personal communication and have that real interaction. Based on that, they wanted to uplift the score as well. Low, and we went down. And kind of, yeah, basically we kind of created this kind of sample model that we took further. Once we have that model, what we do? I guess we go in Pardot, we log in, we go to marketing, segmentation, and profiles, and then we create these profiles using the same names, and then we put these fields and the grades, how we want to adjust that profile. And once it's all beautifully done inside the Pardot, we need to do two magic things. So basically, prospect grading is happening in two stages. So one automation rule goes to assigning that label. So basically, on that prospect, we are putting a profile label, lower value customer, or medium value customer, or high value customer. So basically, we're putting kind of a name on a customer. And once each prospect has got that label, we are using the second automation rule to actually match the score. And once our both automation rules has worked out in Pardot, we get a beautiful prospects, and beautiful scores and beautiful grades. And now marketing team inside Pardot can actually start seeing how these customers and where they're positioned. And I guess the next thing is Salesforce admins, Pardot admins, they can get creative and they can start, for example, creating an additional rules. So for example, based on, this prospect has score 100 plus and has grade A, we can trigger maybe and send them to a specific key manager salesperson. And then also what is great, what I have done, for example, for a smaller companies, where kind of teams are more combined, we can create a beautiful dashboards and reports, actually, for example, displaying top 10 leads in last 24 hours based on their score and grade, so people can actually, first thing that they can come into the office, they actually see, which these, for example, especially in the property, when people mostly do their search in the evenings, they can actually see in the morning who they should kind of start contacting and which are these potential prospects they can kind of move further on. And then, I guess the sales team can finally start doing their job properly and converting those leads and increasing the business revenue. Thank you. And now I guess it's a Q&A time. If you have any questions from the slides that you see, or maybe you want to bring me some slide back to ask about something more specific. Yeah.
I have a question about using different profiles, because although the grade goes across the Salesforce as a field, the profile, what profile they are, isn't a custom field in Salesforce. So having the different profiles, is it just so that you can adjust the score differently depending on fields, or is it so that salespeople can easily see what type of customer they are, or what's the sort of reason behind having so many different profiles in the example that you gave?
Yeah, so I guess that probably goes more question to the business, like how deep they want to go. And for example, this customer, they really had a lot of different profiles and they wanted to be able to adjust that score quite differently. Okay. But in terms of the kind of the profile, it's mainly sitting inside the Pardot. And like you said, in Salesforce, you will be able to see kind of the end result of that profile working and reflecting in a score and a grade. Okay. Or actually profile, sorry, it will be only a grade.
Yeah. So it's only to be able to have, like, so if someone visits a booth and they're a high value customer, you'd adjust that score very differently than if they were a low value customer.
Yeah.
So that's the reason you're using it.
Do you guys kind of have used a lot of profiles, or maybe have seen like different use cases, or somebody has a lot of profiles, somebody has like a couple profiles? What has been your experience?
I think it depends on the type of customer as well. If they're actually interested in grading, scoring. I've got some customers and they don't care about that. They just, I've got an email address, I've got a name, they've opted in.
Yeah.
So that's good enough for me. Where obviously some people are really interested in, making sure that they only contact the real sort of concrete people, where potentially they could lose a lot of business because they're too worried about having a good policy than just a name or email address.
Yeah, because I guess the main difference, basically, scoring is how customer is interested in you as a business, because the prospect's activity identifies how big is the score. But grade is again stepping from the business perspective and then seeing, they are cash customer, or they are mortgage customer, and they already have bought a house, or they haven't bought a house. So how good for us, based on our experience, is that customer? So we kind of can put potentially that assumption around that customer and put a grade, so we can actually understand. For example, if we have 10 leads at the same time, score 80, and then some of them has profile A, grade A, some of them has grade F, then we can kind of start understanding who are actually the best fit. Like for example, if I guess this was kind of one approach into grading, probably very, very traditional that we see, for example, on Salesforce documentation, is that grade is based around their area, their title, business size, and company, and things like that. So for example, let's say developer gets in touch with you. So developer, if we can kind of think about it, developer in the company is kind of in a lower position, so they kind of do the back-end stuff. So we can do an assumption and assign a D grade to them. But for example, if we receive a new prospect inquiry that is CEO of the company, so for us, oh wow, CEO get in touch with us, so he's a key person and he looked on our website, so let's assign an A grade to them, because if he was willing to provide us his details and he's interested, then he's kind of a quick fish for us to get inside the company and seal the deal. So for example, that probably from the Salesforce perspective is kind of the way how they kind of have designed that model. But then I guess based on industry, so for example, CloudShift is very focused in property, media, high tech, and business dev. So we kind of probably, our profiles and gradings, and probably example that you saw here before was more about what type of customer you are. Do you have like mortgage, cash, and no, it's kind of, it was probably more property emphasis.
I've worked with property companies, they don't care about actually grading or scoring. It's more like they're interested in property because it's London property. They're only really inquiring because they are genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Where I've worked with a recruitment agency that uses Pardot, and they are interested in scoring, like big time, to see if people are genuinely interested in jobs and not they're just wasting their time. So
Yeah, I think it all depends on the numbers,
I don't
doesn't
think-
it?
yeah,
Like,
I don't
if
think
the property website was getting like 1,000 leads a
Yeah.
day, and they
Yeah.
couldn't follow up with all of them, they'd probably be
I think,
interested
again,
in
it
if they're
depends
getting
on
all
like
the
the
way
type of
from
property. If you're selling, say, £100,000 flats, then
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot more, so you might need to see.
Where are these flats?
Can we all like them?
Obviously, miles and miles and miles out of London, in the middle of nowhere. But if you're like, say, £1 million property, then you're only getting a couple of hits,
Yeah,
3 or 4, 5 days. It's not very that use. But I don't think there's any right way or wrong way of
Yeah.
doing like
It's
leads
very
or
unique
scoring and
approach.
ratings. It's all
Yeah.
on like what you said there about if it works for you, it works for you.
Yeah.
It might not work for another business.
I think it also probably nowadays, I think kind of marketing teams overall, they're growing within each company, and this kind of things, they become more kind of popular. But overall, kind of the company want to go as deep as actually their understanding are. So sometimes as a consultants, we just can not really emphasize and actually share that this functionality can exist and how as a business they can benefit in that. Because if we actually don't share all the pros and cons and we don't see them in real life working, and we don't, for example, like what I do is that, for example, I have a demo org and I actually show how these automation scores, grades are working, how, for example, in a beautiful dashboard you can see this displaying, and you kind of, when they see the end result, basically, we as a consultants, we need to kind of also know how to sell the vision and that beautiful end result, and this is how, no, actually, we can potentially help businesses to kind of get more value and seal more deals.
I think that's why it's key you get the right person in the company you're working with. Sometimes I find that the wrong person is trying to do the Pardot implementation they don't want, or marketing person, or a salesperson. Because a salesperson is a bit of a pain, or
Yeah.
it's like emphasise. It's not just about Pardot, it's about if you give me the right people in the company, you can actually get Pardot to
It's also
do
about
everything that you need to do and more.
It's also about getting the data. If you
Yeah.
can run the report
Yeah.
and say, okay, these job titles are actually
Yeah.
bringing money into your business.
Where you get some.
But if you don't have job titles, then you can build this lovely scoring model because you want to get directors of this, that, and the other, and nobody ends up getting a grade because you just don't have the data. And I've seen that before.
And that's just the people that work at Salesforce that don't realise the value of
Yeah.
the title. Like you mentioned about C-level title, about CEO. You didn't know what a C-level was. You would assume that it doesn't really matter, does it? The CEO.
Yeah, they just directly approach lead as it comes. They don't really care about
Like,
have
your
name, email,
presentation
it's
was
called.
like the consultant example as well, the scenarios. It's quite useful as well. Obviously, I've done a consulting exam, so it doesn't matter. But anyone that wants to do a consulting exam, that was a prime example of what sort of questions you get.
What's scoring? No, sorry, the profiles. They are set by both scoring and grading, right?
Profiles are set only specifically to display the grade. So score would be based on, for example, you place on your website tracking code. For every open email you have, I guess that all uplifts. And then basically profiles are specifically created to actually assign a grade, because by default, as Pardot comes, once you turn it on, once you set up it, it will be automatically assigning the score based on the prospect's activity, but it will not going to be assigning grade. So grade will always be blank.
So
And
the profiling is outside of Pardot itself when you create the profile.
no. Profiles are inside the Pardot.
And then you
It's
just create
just
an automation rule to match that.
yeah, exactly. So basically, you have it as a feature, but you need to set it up. You need to set up the model. You need to create, i.e., all those profiles, and you need to set up the automation that will be assigning those profiles based on the field values that you
Can you show
identify.
us, you had a slide
You had
that
the
had
slide,
that.
yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
just missed the start when you started talking about it. Yeah, it's the grades.
Yeah. So
Who's that one further on, I think?
this one.
With the two.
No, next
Ah.
one. That.
Yeah. Yeah, so here we have basically, we need to set up two automation rules based on the profiles. So one will be actually matching all the fields that are key and will be assigning the profile once these fields have a specific values in them. And then another one, the same, it will be matching the values, and based on that it will be assigning basically uplifting or decreasing the score. And actually, for example, there's kind of tricky. If you say matches, then it uplifts. If you say there is matches, does
Not match.
does
Which is
not
negative.
negative.
Not known.
Yeah, something like that. Then it will neutral, not going to do anything. So basically, based on these, if it matched, it will increase. If not matched, it will do the same, but opposite minus, and then neutral, not going to do anything.
And presumably you have an automation rule for every profile you set up.
Yeah, so for every profile you will create two automation rules. So for example, that customer, they had 12 different profiles, so that means I created 24 automation rules, one for assigning profile and another one to assigning the grade.
But you would actually have like lots of different. You would probably have more than that, because each of the categories would presumably be different within the profile. So, like, if you had like job title, for example, you might have some job titles. You might have like 4 criteria in
Different
each.
tiers.
Yeah, different tiers and like lots. Yeah.
I suppose that depends what job type you're interested in.
Well, and like locations and all sorts.
I mean, it also depends like how your job titles are set up. Are they as a pick list or are they as a free text? So then you need to have like
Keyword.
additional logic, see what means CEO or executive and things like that. Yeah. It can be tricky, but at the same time it can be really beneficial when you look at this slide.
I think a good place to start. Oh, sorry. Like a good place to start is to have one profile, and then if you want to have extra profiles, like for example, if you wanted to grade, say somebody who was like a director of marketing, if for one of your products that was a really good title, but for one of your products it wasn't such a good title, you probably want to have different profiles because you want to grade that same field differently for different people, depending on what they're interested in.
All the different products. So if
Yeah.
you're doing scoring categories, it makes sense to have
Yeah,
different
definitely.
profiles with an association with the scoring categories.
Yeah, we don't really use scoring because we have a lot of users from India.
So basically, yeah, if you had different. I'm trying to think of how, like an example of how it might work, how you might use different.
So the way we set it
profiles,
up, we can
with
do
different
different
countries,
profiles.
you might need different
exactly.
profiles.
So we did my
regions.
territory,
Yeah.
just automation rules within the profile. And now, if I want to take it somewhere else, we have to create the profiles. So otherwise, the
Yeah.
automation rules are stuck contradicting each other, right?
Yeah.
Because they would
They
want
stop
to
Yeah.
grade differently, so a different location or a different interest might be
Yeah.
different.
So then the category scoring can become useful because you